Imagine an ordinary sunny day at the beach. Children are playing in the sand, tourists are sunbathing on the shore, and fishermen are mending their nets. The sea is calm and warm, with nothing to suggest danger. And then something strange happens. The sea begins to retreat from the shore. The water pulls back. The seabed, usually hidden beneath the waves, is exposed. Fish flop among the rocks. Shells, seaweed, and stones appear before everyone's eyes. Many people are amazed and come to see this wonder. They cheer, laugh, and take out their phones to take pictures. No one understands what is really happening. And then the worst happens. Just a few minutes later, these people will find themselves engulfed beneath a gigantic wall of water. Most of them will not survive. That is a tsunami, the most terrifying wave the ocean can create. Today you ito teru yu zahorudu, tu about ha tsunami zuaku. Zaha shuro, zuobu fijikusu biha indo zezue, busando wa ya zeikure musomeni, raifu suibu ninza mo daneiji. To understand tsunamizu, you first need to understand one important thing. These waves are completely different from ordinary ocean waves. When you stand on the beach and look out at the water, you see waves rolling toward the shore. These waves are created by wind. The wind blows across the sea, causing ripples on the surface. Gradually, these ripples turn into larger waves. Za sutoronga, za windo, za razia, za webuzu bikamu. Dauringu apawa huru sutomu, webuzu ken bikamu eno manasu. Samutai muzu ze ritsuchi za haito obu ahuaibu stori, birudingu. Zozua, hurearingu, webuzu. Zei ken destoroi shippusu ando endenja, pipuru onza shoa, batto zeia, storu notto tsunamizu. A tsunami is something entirely different. It has a completely different nature, and its power is also completely different. The main difference between a tsunami and an ordinary wave is that a normal wave only moves the upper part of the water. If you look at a wave from the side, you only see the crest rising and falling, while the water deep below remains almost motionless. A tsunami works differently. It is the movement of the entire water column from the surface all the way down to the seabed. Imagine you have several meters of water in a large bathtub, and suddenly you push the water strongly from one side. All the water moves, not just the top layer, but all the water down to the bottom. A tsunami works in exactly the same way. In the ocean, not only the upper layer moves, but the entire column of water from the bottom to the surface moves as well. And that column of water can be several kilometers deep. Imagine how enormous that mass is. But what causes this movement throughout the entire water column? An immense force is required to lift and move all the water in the ocean. Ordinary wind is far too weak to create a tsunami. I bunza sutoronge suto suto, mukianotto kurie to tsunami. Samushingu machimo apawa huru izuni, do.u zuari. Atsunami huo muzuanda. Wota, ana, sukue kuokiwa zude. Pubi hayendoza ocean floor. Massive sections of the Earth's crust suddenly shift. One plate may rise while another sinks. All of this happens simultaneously across a vast area hundreds of kilometers wide beneath the water. When this occurs, the entire body of water above that region suddenly rises or falls, and the whole ocean begins to move. This process happens very quickly. In just a few seconds, an amount of energy equivalent to the energy produced simultaneously by hundreds of the most powerful bombs is released underwater. This energy is transferred into the water, and the water begins moving in enormous masses. Immediately after the shock, the tsunami spreads outward in different directions from the epicenter. It spreads like ripples from a stone thrown into water. The only difference is that these ripples are the size of an entire ocean. The speed of these waves is astonishing. Across the open ocean, a tsunami can travel at speeds of up to 800 kilometers per hour. That is the speed of a passenger airplane. An airplane flies through the sky, while a tsunami moves across the ocean at the same speed. It cannot be stopped. It cannot be caught, and cannot be seen. The most astonishing and destructive fact is that in the middle of the open ocean, a tsunami is almost invisible. People sailing at sea may not even notice a tsunami passing beneath their vessel. The wave may be only a few dozen centimeters high, sometimes not even a meter. That is a very small wave. A ship simply will not feel it. Meanwhile, the wave continues traveling at incredible speed, carrying an enormous amount of energy, heading toward the coast where a terrible disaster is about to occur. This is what makes a tsunami so dangerous. It can travel halfway across an ocean without anyone knowing in advance. And now comes the most frightening part. What happens when this nearly invisible wave approaches the shore? This is where special laws of physics come into play. And this is what makes a tsunami deadly. As the wave approaches shallow water, its front begins to slow down because the seabed becomes shallower. The water rubs against the bottom, slowing the front edge of the wave, while the rear edge continues moving at the same speed. What happens when the rear catches up to the front? They collide with each other. The entire mass of water begins to pile up in one place, with nowhere to go except upward. The wave rises suddenly, growing larger right before your eyes. Tiny movements that were almost unnoticeable in the vast ocean suddenly transform into a gigantic wall of water. The height of a tsunami near the shore can be terrifying. The strongest tsunamis have reached heights of 30 meters. That is the height of a 10-story building. Imagine a gigantic wall of water as tall as a 10-story building rushing toward the shore at tremendous speed. No wall can withstand such an impact, no building can remain standing, and no person can escape it. This is the terrifying wall that traps people who have no idea what is happening. And just before this phenomenon, the sea often retreats from the shore. This is nature's final warning. If you see the sea pulling back, you have only a few minutes to escape. After that, it is too late. Why does the sea retreat before a tsunami arrives? This is related to the structure of the wave itself. A tsunami has two main components: the crest, the upper part, and the trough, the lower part. As the tsunami approaches the shore, sometimes it is the trough that arrives first. In this case, water is drawn into that depression, and the sea retreats from the shore, and the seabed is exposed. This phenomenon lasts for several minutes, after which the crest arrives and a gigantic wall of water crashes onto the coast. The farther the sea retreats, the stronger the next impact will be. This rule is almost always true. If you see the sea retreating rapidly, do not stay. Run as far away from the water as possible. Your life is in danger. But not every tsunami begins with a retreating wave. Sometimes it is not the trough, but the crest that reaches the shore first. In such cases, there is no warning sign. A giant wave appears suddenly. And in these situations, a person's chances of survival are even smaller. That is why modern scientists are constantly working to create early warning systems. These systems are designed to alert people before a tsunami arrives. Aroing zemu tu escape to se fute. Zapawa obu tsunami su imaginable. Uena wo ruobu wo tate no atuen teime. Toru high strike zuzashoa atto high speedo. Itsto sui. Puzu awe yeburi shingui ni tsutsupasu. Houses collapse like cardboard boxes. Trees snap like matchsticks. And cars are carried away like toys. Entire trains are derailed. Botun rando azumetsushu do intupi. Su. Matsushi busuchi. Rustorakucha. Zubenando bureku apa. Toa kanpani. Dobaya horihuingaroa. The soundo of an approaching tsunami can be heard from far away. It resembles the rumble of a gigantic train. The noise grows louder and louder, and when the wave reaches the shore, the sound becomes deafening. But that is not all. The worst part often does not happen during the first wave. After the first wave, the water begins flowing back toward the sea. It drags away everything it swept inland. Debris from houses, vehicles, people, and trees. Everything becomes part of a gigantic torrent of debris and dirty water. This torrent is extremely dangerous. Anyone caught in it is pulled into the water together with thousands of heavy objects. Imagine if a huge mountain collapsed into the ocean. The amount of water displaced would be unimaginable. Scientists calculate that such an event could generate a giant tsunami capable of crossing the Atlantic Ocean. Fortunately, the probability of this happening in the near future is very low. However, this demonstrates once again how enormous the forces hidden in nature can be. Tsunamis remind us that our planet is a living world. Deep beneath our feet, giant tectonic plates are constantly moving. Mountains rise, oceans change, continents drift. Most of the time, we do not notice these processes because they happen very slowly. But sometimes nature releases its energy in a matter of seconds. Then earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and tsunamis occur. The most important thing a person can do is understand these dangers and know how to act correctly. Knowledge saves lives. If you are on the coast and feel a strong earthquake, do not wait for an official warning. Move to higher ground immediately. If you see the sea suddenly retreating far from the shore, run. Do not take photographs. Do not collect shells. Do not stay to watch. Every second may determine whether you survive. Many survivors of major tsunamis later said the same thing. They did not realize the danger because the sea looked beautiful. The exposed seabed seemed fascinating. Curiosity kept them on the shore. And by the time they understood what was happening, it was already too late. Tsunamis are among the most destructive natural phenomena on Earth because they combine three deadly factors at once: tremendous speed, enormous mass, and immense energy. A hurricane can be seen approaching. A tornado can often be spotted in the distance, but a tsunami may remain almost invisible until the very last moment. The ocean covers more than 70% of our planet. Most of the time it appears calm and peaceful. It provides food, transportation, and beauty. But hidden beneath that peaceful surface are forces powerful enough to reshape coastlines and destroy entire cities. Scientists continue improving warning systems every year. New satellites, underwater sensors, and computer models help detect dangerous waves faster than ever before. Thanks to these technologies, millions of people living along coastlines now have a much better chance of receiving advance warning and reaching safety. Even so, technology alone is not enough. Public education remains one of the most important defenses. Every person living near the ocean should know the basic signs of a tsunami and understand evacuation routes. Communities that prepare in advance are far more likely to survive when disaster strikes. The story of tsunamis is ultimately a story about the power of nature. It reminds us that despite all our technology, we are still part of a dynamic planet whose forces are far greater than anything we can build. We can study these forces, monitor them, and prepare for them, but we cannot stop them. And perhaps that is the most important lesson. The ocean deserves both our admiration and our respect. It can be breathtakingly beautiful, yet it can also become one of the most powerful destructive forces on Earth. Understanding how tsunamis work helps us appreciate the incredible power of our planet and may one day save lives when the sea suddenly begins to retreat and nature gives its final warning. If this happens, a giant tsunami will form. This wave could cross the ocean in just a few hours and strike the coast of America. The waves there could be hundreds of meters high. Entire coastal cities would be swept into the sea. Scientists hope this will not happen soon, perhaps not for thousands or tens of thousands of years. But they continue to monitor this volcano in case of the worst scenario. Another interesting feature of tsunamis: these waves do not like islands. If there is a large island in the path of a tsunami, the wave will flow around it. Islands often act as natural protection. Behind them, the power of the wave is much weaker. This has saved many cities in the past. But if the island is small, it may be completely submerged by the wave. Living on low islands in the middle of the ocean is especially dangerous. Many of these islands have no high ground. When a tsunami arrives, people have nowhere to escape. They become trapped. This is one of the most terrifying situations. The inhabitants of such islands have long known about this danger, but they have no other choice. They are forced to live where their ancestors lived thousands of years ago. Today, scientists have new tools to study tsunamis. They use large computers. They use these computers to simulate the behavior of waves. And they can accurately predict how a wave will travel across the ocean, where it will be strongest, where it will be weakest, and which cities will be affected the most. These models are becoming more and more advanced. They help plan defenses for coastal cities. They help build new warning systems. Every year, scientists learn something new about tsunamis, and every year their predictions become more accurate. This gives hope that in the future, we will be able to protect people better from this terrible danger. Tsunamis are a reminder of the smallness of our planet. The vast ocean, which seems endless to us, can at any moment turn into a deadly force. The elements that have been a source of life for thousands of years can now take the lives of thousands of people in just a few minutes. These are the harsh laws of physics of our world. And these are laws that operate whether we like them or not. We cannot stop them. We cannot change them. We can only understand them and prepare for them. And every new tsunami teaches us something new. It teaches us to respect the power of nature. It teaches us not to underestimate the ocean. It teaches us to value the short life that each of us has on this wonderful and dangerous planet. It is worth taking a closer look at what people experience when a tsunami strikes. It is a terrifying experience. People who survive a tsunami remember that feeling for the rest of their lives. At first, people hear a strange sound. It sounds like the rumble of a distant train or the roar of a large beast. Then they look toward the horizon, and where there was once a normal sea line, a dark streak appears. This streak quickly grows thicker. It rises higher and higher, and at some point people realize that it is not a cloud on the horizon, but a giant wall of water. It is moving toward the shore and moving very fast. The person who sees it has only 1 or 2 minutes to escape. Many people freeze at this moment. They simply stand there and stare, unable to believe their eyes, wasting precious seconds. Experienced rescuers say that the key in such a situation is not to waste time thinking. Just turn around and run. Run uphill. Run as fast as possible. Do not look back. What happens to a person caught in a tsunami? That is the worst part. At first, the powerful current simply knocks them down. The water pushes them forward. It is impossible to keep your balance. No force can compare with the power of rushing water. You are swept into the current together with thousands of other objects, rocks, tree branches, debris from houses, cars. Everything flies with the current and strikes you from all sides. It is impossible to breathe. It is completely dark. Dirty water clogs your eyes, nose, and mouth. You spin in a whirlpool. It feels as if you have been thrown into a washing machine. Many people die from the impact of flying debris, not from drowning, but from injuries. This explains why even strong swimmers cannot survive a tsunami. The power of the current and the amount of debris in it leave no chance. But there are also miraculous survival stories. Sometimes people manage to survive in the most extraordinary ways. One man swam more than 3 kilometers in the middle of a wave. He was found far from shore, clinging to a roof. And the house had been swept away by the wave, but the roof remained afloat. The man held on to it for several days and was rescued by a rescue ship. Another woman survived on the roof of her car. The car was swept away, but the roof remained floating on the water. A third person simply held onto a tree and survived. The tree did not break, and the water eventually receded. Such cases are very rare, but they show that even in the most dangerous situations, survival is sometimes possible. The most important thing is not to give up. The most important thing is to hold on. The most important thing is not to let go of whatever you are holding. Tsunami do notsto only destroyko storains. Zezue bus penetrati do puinlando. They can travel several kilome. Toru from the sea before stopping. Along the way, they flood fields, villages, and roads. And they mix the fresh water in rivers and wells with seawater. After a tsunami, drinking water becomes difficult to find. This creates serious problems for survivors. people begin to suffer from thirst. Without clean water, a person can survive only 3 days. Therefore, the first relief effort after a tsunami is to bring drinking water. This is even more important than bringing food. Without food, a person can survive for weeks. Without water, only a few days. And there is another problem. Flooded fields become unsuitable for farming. Sea salt kills all crops. It takes many years of work before a field can become fertile again. This means famine can affect entire regions for a long time after the disaster. It should also be noted that after a tsunami, the coastline itself undergoes significant changes. Yuibuskan kompuri tori oruta, zashe puobuzasho arain, sando zatto hazubi non bichizuho, decades can be washed out to shi, ancient kurihoods can kororapu, ando ento aya sections of coastline can be submerged. Conversely, objects carried by the waves can also sink to the seabed. Immediately after a disaster, maps of the area no longer reflect reality. Rescue teams are forced to work blindly. They do not know where to go because familiar landmarks have disappeared. Roads are washed away, bridges are destroyed, signs are torn apart. Entire villages are simply erased from the face of the earth. Where they once existed, only mud, debris, and ruins remain. And in just a few minutes, the power of nature destroys what people spent generations building. One interesting thing to observe is that animals often behave strangely before a tsunami arrives. And many witnesses have reported seeing birds suddenly flying inland, dogs unexpectedly pulling their owners away from the sea, elephants breaking free from chains and running toward hills, and schools of fish diving to the bottom of the sea. Scientists believe that animals sense weak vibrations that humans cannot hear. They hear low-frequency sounds that our ears cannot detect. They detect changes in the atmosphere. This ability helps them sense danger minutes or even hours before it arrives. In countries where tsunamis occur frequently, people have learned to observe animals. If pets begin behaving strangely, it may be a warning sign. Trouble may be approaching. It is better to be prepared. If you enjoyed this story about the harsh physical laws of tsunamis, please press like and subscribe. Many more fascinating stories about the power of nature and the mysteries of our planet await you. See you again in new episodes, where we will continue to reveal to you the wonderful and dangerous world in which we live.